Sambhavapakaya Chitalpasya Sarvadharma Swarupine Avatara Varishtaya Ramakrishnaya Te Namaha. Our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, establisher of the universal religion, embodiment, in fact, of all religions. To the noblest of divine incarnations, I offer my profound salutations. So, today has been a special occasion. It is the Titi Puja of Swami Shivananda, otherwise known as Mahapurush Maharaj. So Mahapurush Maharaj, in case you didn't know, he was named that by Swami Vivekananda because of his absolute celibate purity and chastity, even during his married life. He was briefly married and was obliged to do so, but fortunately for him and for us all, the celibate life naturally took over. And so the divine grace was there. And I have a special soft spot for Swami Shivananda. Why is that? Because my sannyas guru was initiated by him. He was his teacher. In a sense, he is my grand teacher. And that means that I had the privilege, while serving this disciple of Mahapurush Maharaj, of finding out some small, insignificant details, insignificant to most people. But when you study the life of such great people, even every small detail is a precious gem. So I recall some of the things that were told to me. My guru had said that the reason why I'm walking so carefully down these steps is that my guru used to walk in this way, very carefully, very steadily and slowly. And he was very careful to point out that you should take care going down steps. I think that's a lesson to everybody here over the years at the ashram, where there have been so many people falling downstairs. Another thing he was keen to tell me was when he took his sannyas, he woke up in the morning and discovered under his bedroll there was a snake, a dead snake, and there was green vomit everywhere. And so his fellow initiates would joke with him and say, so now you have gotten all your poison out. When he got his diksha from Mahapurush Maharaj, he forgot the mantra because Mahapurush Maharaj had such a beautiful face. And so Swami Nisrasananda had an artistic temperament and had a penchant for capturing the details in a portrait. And he was thinking, as his guru was speaking, he was thinking, what colors should I select? How would I paint this? And how beautiful that would look. He had to go back and ask, what is my mantra? Another thing, of course, was everybody had received a rosary. And he never got one. He never got a mala. And they said to him, maybe he made a mistake. Go back and ask for a mala. So sheepishly he went back to Mahapurush Maharaj and he said, may I have a mala, a rosary? And Mahapurush Maharaj looked at him and said, I don't sell them, and sent him on his way. Of course, he did acquire one a little bit later, but he understood the wisdom of his guru. He didn't want him to make a counting exercise out of it. And so he withdrew that. But you see, what a beautiful soul, looking severe on the outside, looking very much like Shiva. That's why he was called Shivananda. It was Swami Vivekananda who had a vision when they were in Gaya. And the vision he had was he saw light emanate from Buddha and enter into the body of Shivananda. Shivananda was called Taraknath. And so there was this specialness about Swami Shivananda. he loved the mountains. He loved the Himalayan environment. It so happened that he went for recovery in the Nilgiri Hills. There's a place there called Uttakamund. The British used to call it Uti. Even now it's called Uti. Typical British family style. When it was very hot, they retired to these hills, these Nilgiri Hills. And immediately he saw the beauty of the scenery. The one characteristic of a perfected soul is whatever they wish for comes true. They themselves become something like a wish-fulfilling tree. You can't avoid it, so in tune are they with the cosmic mind. And no doubt, Swami Shivananda had learned to be completely saturated by the personality of Sri Ramakrishna. I should tell you that, of course, at the time of meeting his master, Sri Ramakrishna, who was like a beaming light, shared among 16 fragments of light, monastic disciples and beyond. He met him and he was very fascinating with the subject of samadhi. And he inquired, has anybody experienced or knows anything about this samadhi, particularly this Nirvikalpa samadhi? And he was told, no, there's only one person, this Paramahansa. You should try and see him. And he had already heard about him from the Brahma Samaj. And he realized that Ramakrishna was going to be visiting Ram Babu's house, which happened to be quite near him. He determined he'd go and see him. And there he saw the master in a semi-conscious state, exactly talking about the phenomena of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Some people call these episodes coincidence, but those who know call it the pouring out of divine grace. In terms of his family background, that is always important. He was born in Barasat, about 25 kilometers from the city of Calcutta. But his father, Ramkanai Ghoshal, he was involved in legal affairs with Rani Rasmani. It was during Sri Ramakrishna's spiritual practice, intense spiritual practice, that he had burning sensations. And because Tarak's father was a well-known tantrika and a person of pure and spiritual character, he asked him, so what would you do? How about this burning sensation? Do you have anything? And he gave him a kind of bracelet or an amulet that epitomized his chosen ideal. And he wore it, and sure enough, the burning sensation dissipated. Now, this only came to light once Sri Ramakrishna had inquired from Tarak about his family, and he realized, oh, that's your father. I understand. But you see, once Mahapurush Maharaj, Tarak was very despondent because everybody was doing service to the master, carrying a water pot and other things. And he was never asked to do this. Finally, he discovered, no, you see, your father is a guru of mine. And, you know, the son of the guru and the guru, they're the same thing. I can't ask you to do anything. This is how seriously Ramakrishna took, literally, the truth of things. Tarak himself would have lost his own outer consciousness. He could vividly see that he is, in fact, the Atman, and he vividly saw that Sri Ramakrishna was God incarnate. He told the great French author, savant Romain Rolland, that he had, in fact, a number of spiritual experiences, but he had actually seen God 3 times during his association with Sri Ramakrishna. He was with Sri Ramakrishna through Ramakrishna's last days in Kashipur. And as I say, around about this time, going to Gaya, it was Naren who saw the specialness, had this vision of the Buddha's light entering into Taraknath. Again, as I say, the whole idea that Swami Shivananda was Mahapurush Maharaj, this was applied from Naren, who saw that his unbroken chastity was intact even when he was at one time married. And of course, as a monk, Swami Shivananda would have traveled across the country as they all did. And as I say, he had a special love for the Himalayas, and his name of Shiva, he has the bliss of this auspicious one called Shiva, was very apt. He made Almora his base and spent a lot of time there. There he met E.T. Sturdy, a disciple of Swami Vivekananda, English disciple he was. And upon Swamiji's return to the West, or from the West, I should say, he sent Shivananda to Sri Lanka, where he stayed for some 10 months. In 1902, Swami Vivekananda asked him to start the ashram in Varanasi. And when Swami Vivekananda Swamiji passed away, soon after, Shivananda went to Varanasi. There he lived a very austere life, and the income was very little. And he managed to live like this. Despite being offered money, he declined and made sure that the sacred holy place of Varanasi was built up in terms of its atmosphere, which you can still feel today. And it was only when he passed away that he went there. And there he placed this picture of Swamiji in the shrine at Varanasi. That was the first time, actually, that Swami Vivekananda's picture was put in a shrine. Anyway, he stayed there in Varanasi for some 7 years. In 1922, he became, on the passing of Raj Maharaj, Swami Brahmananda, the second president of the Ramakrishna order. And he focused very much on the training of the monastics. While he used to be mostly quiet and indrawn, difficult to approach a little bit, the stories that are told when the brahmacharis and monks used to come and prostrate and greet him daily, he was known to make faces. And of course, the whole entourage around would burst into laughter. And the puzzled prostrator would look up, and Mahapurush Maharaj would keep his face straight again. In fact, it is well known that Mahapurush Maharaj always enjoyed some fun. He always liked people to be smiling and happy. He had this kind of disposition. So the outer mask of asceticism, seriousness, and so on, inside, of course, was all joy, and it came out inevitably. He was full of love for all the monastics. In fact, he was full of love for everyone. And this extended not only to humans. He had 2 dogs whom he loved immensely. He was known to have said, pointing to a picture of Ramakrishna, that, and his dog, saying, "This fellow is this dog's master, and this fellow here is the dog of this one, this master here." So in 1933, unfortunately, after a series of ill health episodes, once Swami Shivananda had passed away, his whole mood changed in 1927. But he had a stroke of apoplexy that paralyzed his right side. 9 months later, he contracted pneumonia, passed away. That was on February 20th, soon after Sri Ramakrishna's birth anniversary. But the remarkable thing is, a scholar once said that until he had met Swami Shivananda, he had only read about a free soul, a Jivan Mukta, somebody who was perfected in this life, a soul that is free while living. But upon seeing Swami Shivananda, he said, "I have now seen a Jivan Mukta." He was a great teacher. His wisdom knew no bounds, but he also had the wonderful quality of a teacher of knowing what to say to whom for the best results, not always necessarily what the disciple wanted to hear. It's interesting to read some of the episodes of people who first met him. There's a particular Swami Purnananda who recalls like this when he got his Diksha. He says, I worshipped Thakur with flowers and sandal paste. As soon as I saw Mahapurush Maharaj, my mind was filled with joy, and I thought, this is the same Mahapurush I had seen in a dream. Then he gave me the Mahamantra and said, it is the proper one, isn't it? He gave me the very same mantra I had received in the dream. He put his hand on my head and blessed me. Then he told me to go to the next room and do japa. I experienced a great peace I had never known before. So in this way, a small example, a small tale of the great effect of these great souls and how they were different and unique in their own way. One great interest is in connection with Africa. There was a letter that was written by Swami Vivekananda on 27th December 1897. And he writes like this, and he's writing it to Swami Shivananda. He says, my dear Shivananda, Mr. Settler of Gigan, Bombay, who you know very well from Madras, writes to me to send somebody to Africa to look after the religious needs of the Indian immigrants in Africa. The work will not be congenial at present, I'm afraid, but it is the work for a perfect man. To look after the Indians and at the same time maintain cool-headedness so as not to create more strife is the work there. No immediate result can be expected, but in the long run, it will prove a more beneficial work for India than any yet attempted. I wish you to try your luck in this. Of course, he never got to do it, but one of his disciples did. It was the Swami Shivananda that I'm linked to. And he did this pioneering work from 1957 onwards and established study groups everywhere. And ultimately, there is the work in South Africa that Mahapurush Maharaj could not really do, but no doubt it is a great work. And thriving centers, all affiliated to the Ramakrishna Math. So this is a small kind of summary. Obviously, when you study a life like this, there are a plethora of details that we could speak about. The whole biography is before us, but these can be found in books. I'll simply just highlight a few of them in different episodes of his life. Let us take, for example, one where he was the head of the order. While in Madras, Mahapurush one day had a sudden illness, a fever with high temperature. It was diagnosed as an attack of malaria. After proper treatment, it was decided that he should go to a healthy place for a change in order to recuperate. And here I'm picking up the story that we mentioned about Uttukamund. So it was 6,000 feet above sea level. A place like that was chosen. It's a hill station in the Nilgiri mountain ranges with a cooler and more bracing climate. In May 1924, Mahapurush arrived here accompanied by some monks. He occupied an attractive cottage set in a spacious garden laid out with shrubs and flowering plants, having all the privacy one could desire. Although the Nilgiris are not very far from Madras, that was perhaps the first time that a direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna had come to that part of the country. And very soon the news spread far and wide and brought to Springfield many a devotee and seeker from Connaught, Uttukamund, and even from Malabar. They were all eager to see the venerable head of the order and avail themselves of his holy company. When alone in his room or in the garden, he was wont to be in deep, mystical moods, enjoying the bliss of union with God. He seemed to be profoundly affected by the spiritual atmosphere of the Nilgiris. Occasionally, if the spirit moved him, he would recount some of his inner experiences and share them with others. But as a rule, he preferred to maintain silence. Once in the course of conversation, Mahapurush expressed the thought that it would be an excellent thing if an ashram was established in this area. And many monks of the order could then come and live here, being benefited thereby. Now, as I mentioned previously, the mere wish of a holy man, expressed or unexpressed, is a force that is contagious, carries with it power of fulfillment. Through the grace of the divine, in an unforeseen manner, the way opened up. The Swami writes about it in a letter. It's like this. Mysterious is the power of the Lord. A devotee here has offered to give me a 2-acre piece of property for the ashram, and it has come about in this way. In a dream, chosen deity of this devotee appeared to him and said, "Very soon, some people will come to you for a piece of land for a monastery. Be sure to give them what they want." This vision occurred 3 nights successively. The joy and surprise of the emissaries looking for the land knew no bounds when they happened to meet this devotee with his gratuitous offer. And so, therefore, detailed plans were then made so that the ashram could be established soon. There are members of this Ramakrishna Hermitage in Uttakamund, an institution in sympathy with the order, convened, I should say, at the local hall, a public meeting presided over by the highly distinguished lawyer B. Ram Rao, and Swami Shivananda was invited to bless the meeting by his presence. Addresses of welcome were presented to him by different groups, and with his approval and the consent of everybody present, an ashram committee was formed. And so the property donated in an area of Bishopstown, an attractive suburb of Uttakamund, it was ideally located and still is at a high altitude on the top of a hill, away from the noise, away from the dust and the bustle of the cities of the plains. It has all the characteristic features of a hermitage. It has silence, it has privacy, scenic beauty, and bracing climate. And I visited there in this January last year, and it is still, although the whole area of Uttakamund has grown substantially, the ashram has all of these particular properties and qualities that I've just mentioned. And it was on July 11th, an auspicious day, after appropriate worship, that this Mahapurush laid the foundation stone of the ashram in a ceremony attended by a large number of people. As the place was not yet quite ready for use, Swami stayed in a house in Springfield where he had been, and on the last visit I went and saw that house. And 2 years later, the Swami came back to the Nilgiri mountain and performed the dedication ceremony, and then made it ready for use. There he stayed for quite a while, and there we can paint a picture of the Swami's life there. That gives us an insight into this serene and beautiful man. A life typical of the man of God, he had always been, of course, but while staying at the ashram in Uttakamund, morning and evening, the Swami used to go out for walks, carrying with him some money and sweets, and on the way he would distribute these among the hill children whom he met. Freely he would mix and talk with them, as if he were one of them. Most of the time at home, when nobody was present, he would be in deep spiritual moods. One day, finding him seated like this, the attendant inquired, "Maharaj, are you well?" The question didn't seem to have reached the Swami's ears at all, so absorbed was he in his own thought. But after a while, the Swami had said, "This place has such a marvelous spiritual vibration that the mind spontaneously wants to plunge into the infinite. I did not realize this before, With the passing of days, I am surprised at the unusual experiences coming to me, and I think of the grace of the Master. It seems that he has brought me here in order to bestow upon me the rare joy of these divine perceptions. Of course, he enjoyed walking as well, and it was unfortunate that toward his evening years, even walking he couldn't really do easily. But many years ago, he continues, when I was in the Himalayas, I had similar experiences. Here, the natural tendency of my mind is towards meditation. It becomes calm and steady without any effort. Sometimes I have to exert myself in order to bring my mind down. In days of yore, many saints and sages must have practiced great austerities in meditation here. And that is why the place has such a deep spiritual atmosphere, so helpful to meditation. The other day, and he mentions who it was, and others mentioned that the forests in this region abound in many kinds of fruits. It is quite probable that the ancient saints and sages practicing meditation here lived on these fruits. And after remaining quiet for a while, the Swami continued, the other day, as I sat here silently watching the blue mountain ranges, I experienced something. I saw a luminous figure coming out of the body. That's meaning his own body, of course. And in a short time, it grew and grew till at last it enveloped the whole world. Heaving a deep sigh, he then remarked, the Lord God is the soul of my soul. It is he who pervades the stupendous universe. Only a portion of his power spreads over the different worlds. The rest is transcendent, immortal. Fascinated by the recital of these experiences, the attendant reverently asked, Maharaj, shall we not experience these things ourselves? We don't seem to notice any difference in the vibration of this place. And the Swami, of course, replied, you are my child. God alone can give you these experiences. This gives us a valuable insight into the possibility of all of us to tune our minds and our hearts, to take advantage of all the resources and surroundings that we have. From time to time, we can go into solitude, let's say for 3 days at a time, on retreat. These opportunities we have anywhere at any time. We have the opportunity to make an intimate connection with reality on the basis that great souls have lived and great souls have experienced this. May we all experience the same greatness, the same elevation of soul and spirit that is characteristic of this great soul, Mahapurush Maharaj. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto all on this special occasion. Thank you.